One orphan boy gets snatched off the streets and becomes the target of brutal experiments. A group of deranged scientists decides to turn him into a living weapon. They strip him of a real name and call him Subject Number 17. For years, they inject him with cells from more than 500 monsters until he barely resembles anything people would recognize as human. Once his body is completely wrecked and he looks like a failed project in their eyes, they make a final decision: he's only useful for one job now, throwing him onto the battlefield as disposable cannon fodder. Honestly, that was the plan from day one. Anyway, after the gates of the demon realm ripped open, monsters swarmed the world. Only a handful of people awakened as hunters, and even fewer were strong enough to stand their ground. Eventually, humanity realized they didn't have nearly enough awakened fighters. So they turned to something much darker. They began producing Chimera hunters, prisoners fused with monster cells and engineered in labs to fight monsters in humanity's place. When Chimera number 17 finally steps into the monster realm, something unbelievable happens. He wipes out monsters stronger than S-rank threats. He cuts down beasts and annihilates entire hordes, even if it destroys his body in the process. The hunters watching from a distance are stunned. One Chimera is accomplishing what should take an entire army. But once the job is finished, the hunters abandon him on purpose. Their orders are simple: do not bring Chimera number 17 back alive. Nothing remains of him except for a single bone. But that lone bone suddenly lifts into the air and begins regenerating his entire body until Chimera number 17 respawns, except now, he's a handsome young man with rock-solid abs. Still stunned by his insane revival, he wonders if he's somehow become human again. Since those monster cells are still inside him, he doubts he counts as fully human, especially with how easily he flexes those razor-sharp talons like he's launching a clothing line for apex predators. No one from the lab shows up to haul him back, so he assumes he's been dumped like a cheap ex. Then he notices the lab code that used to be stamped on his arm is gone. That makes him wonder if he's finally severed ties with the lab for good. Since he's rocking a body hotter than the underworld itself, he figures this might be an ability of Immortal-type monsters, the kind that can revive up to 3 times unless their core gets destroyed. But one thing still bothers him: the scientists always insisted that human cells and immortal monster cells could never fuse. Yet here he is in full alpha mode, radiating peak form like Johnny Bravo was just background noise. Maybe the side effects he used to have got erased since he remembers how his head always felt foggy and chained by some kind of mental curse. Now he feels freer than he ever has. He decides maybe it's time to live like a real human again, now that his days as the obedient mutt known as number 17 are over. That number was slapped on him at random anyway. He tries to remember his real name but suddenly gets pulled into a flashback where an old scientist called him a lunatic with a rough personality but still urged him to help people from now on. The old man asked him to dedicate his life to saving 1,000 people. Back then, drowning in his full-blown edgy era, he didn't even bother responding. Snapping back to reality, he calls that advice complete garbage and laughs at the idea that some orphan from the slums is supposed to help anyone. As he gazes at the sunset, abs gleaming like they've got their own lighting team, he thinks about revenge for a moment but lets it fade. Revenge needs a visible target, and it's been so long that his anger feels more like a fading itch than something real. And besides, there's no way back to the human world right now anyway. He figures he'll run into them eventually and decides to shelve the revenge plan for now and focus on what comes next. Looking down at his majestic body, a dramatic glow conveniently covering his more sensitive areas, he makes a decision: he'll try to live like an actual human from here on, to make up for all the time stolen from him. As he walks off, he realizes he should probably find something to wear and sets out on a mission for clothes. Then a weird thought pops up: he can't even remember the last time he wore anything. He tries to think about what material might work but draws a blank. So he does what any confused barbarian would do: he scans the area. Soon enough, something grabs his attention. Up ahead, he sees the corpse of a bird-like monster and assumes it died in a territory fight, though there aren't any wounds. That makes him think it must have been poison, which works great for him since the body's still in perfect condition and ideal for skinning. He morphs his arm into a massive blade like he's grabbing a butter knife and remembers from the lab that it's best to start cutting from the belly before moving to the limbs. Chun gets to work, but the moment he slices it open, purple gas seeps out. He instantly recognizes it as poison but doesn't even flinch, just breathes it in like cheap cologne. The only thing that bugs him is the smell, since now he'll have to wash the hide. After a while, he finishes skinning the oversized turkey and figures it wasn't a bad job for his first try. He heads to the river to wash the hide, but once he pulls it out, he's disappointed. It's stiff now, even though it felt soft earlier. He assumes it must be something about the monster's biology. Then, out of nowhere, a genius idea hits him. He lays the hide flat and starts beating it like it owes him rent. Mid-punch, he wonders if this is how people normally tan leather and hopes he's not destroying all his effort. After some medieval-style therapy, the hide turns soft again. He holds it up proudly, hiding behind the bird corpse for modesty. He starts adjusting the hide, but just then, a flame flickers on top of the monster's head. The bird's eyes shoot open, clearly traumatized by someone peeling off its skin like gift wrap. Cheyenne quickly punches a few holes into the hide, slips into his makeshift outfit, and ties a vine around his waist like he's ready for Fashion Week. Surprisingly, he feels good about the look. He notices leftover poison on the inner side but decides to leave it since cleaning it would be a hassle. At that moment, the bird monster unleashes an ear-splitting scream, shocking Cheyenne. He really thought it was dead. It thrashes around and even seems to understand human language, which throws him off. He figures the monster must be immortal type 2 since it wasn't breathing earlier. If this had happened before, he would have roasted it without hesitation. But now, seeing it weak and barely hanging on, he decides there's no reason to. John just smirks and says the bird got lucky, wishing it a second chance at life before turning to leave. As he walks away, he casually adds that if fate feels spicy, maybe they'll cross paths again. Later on, he wanders into a cave, checking it out like he's touring apartments. Without warning, a massive centipede lunges out and lands in front of him, but Cheyenne doesn't even blink. The creature attacks, but he's more worried about whether the lighting here is good for a home. With one clean swipe, he slices off the centipede's head like he's flicking away a bug and walks off, mentally crossing this cave off his list. Next, he finds himself in a snowy mountain region where a yeti lies frozen in fear, probably because it saw Cheyenne coming like a jump scare. Apparently, our guy battled the yetis too, but he rejects this spot since finding food here would be a nightmare. Then he checks out a forest, but the mushroom stinks so horribly it's like someone microwaved old fish in an office break room, so that place is a definite no-go. He keeps exploring everything from a creepy lizard-infested cavern to a suspiciously cozy-looking volcano, but nothing feels right. Eventually, he reaches the edge of a cliff and stares out across an absolutely breathtaking view. It shocks him that a place in the demon realm could look this stunning. He decides to scout the area and casually hops off the cliff, landing with a thud that would have snapped another person's spine. Chan notices the water is crystal clear with a healthy fish population. A couple of monster fish leap out trying to take a bite out of him, and he briefly wonders if he could roast one like a campsite meal. Thinking it over, he realizes this is the perfect spot: natural fish supply, fresh air, flowers everywhere. So he makes his decision. He'll build his home here and names it the Cheonduan House. Meanwhile, far away in another part of the demon realm, the air crackles as a portal tears open and something shoots through, slamming into the ground with a thunderous boom. A robotic-looking figure rises from the smoke, looks around, and questions out loud if this really is the demon realm. He takes a moment to soak in the scenery, letting the fresh air and colorful flowers charm him, and ends up deciding this area is pretty much the ideal place to build Cheonduan's house. He starts by clearing the land using vine-like tendrils that sprout from his fingertips, slicing down every tree within reach in one smooth sweep. After clearing the space, he uses those same vines to gather the fallen logs and stack them as the main building materials. Just when everything seems to be going smoothly, he notices the ground looks way too uneven for his taste. So he pulls out the vines again and levels the entire area, removing every leftover stump until the clearing finally looks tidy enough to host a Pinterest-worthy cabin. As he sets down the logs and plants the main support pillars, he begins noticing how his body moves almost automatically. And it makes him wonder if this is what people mean when they talk about free will, especially since it's the first time he's building something that genuinely belongs to him. He lays down the floor planks next and chooses to use snail-type monster mucus instead of nails, since that stuff hardens almost like stone and might even serve as waterproofing, which honestly sounds like a win. Once the main structure is complete, he adds a personal touch by spreading silkworm cocoon threads over the roof, which boosts his confidence that monsters probably won't come knocking anytime soon. The place looks cozy and nearly finished, but he pauses to think about what else a real human home should have. Then he remembers how the lab used to show videos of normal houses before the gates opened. Thinking it through, he realizes most people either kept pets or grew plants in their yards. And since dogs aren't exactly an option in the demon realm, he figures the best choice is to grow something and create a garden. After brainstorming what to plant, he suddenly has a eureka moment and decides that mandragoras would be perfect, especially with a snowy mountain nearby that matches their habitat. As he treks through the cold, snow-covered landscape, he remembers mandragoras usually grow in high mana areas, and the way the snow piles around him makes him think back to when he was kidnapped and shipped off to the lab. Ironically, he almost sees that moment as a blessing now, because becoming a chimera meant he no longer had to worry about freezing or starving in miserable conditions. Eventually, he senses the high mana levels around him and figures he must be close. Sure enough, he soon spots the mandragora roots. They look like sunfish with leafy heads and are known to be extremely sensitive to stress, often dying from even the smallest environmental change. He reasons that picking younger ones would be better since they might adapt more easily. So he carefully selects 3, bracing himself for the screaming they're known for. But instead of the shrill screeches he expects, he finds the first little guy sound asleep, snoring like a toddler. The other 2 he picks are also peacefully snoozing and even mumbling in their sleep. That throws him off until he remembers that the whole mandragora screaming thing was mostly a lab-made horror caused by humans growing them in low-mana, high-stress environments. The screaming was mostly a reaction to being yanked out violently. He starts to wonder if the silence is just because they're in the demon realm now. Even so, it's strange how they're not resisting or trying to flee. That is, unless they somehow recognize him as one of their own, which wouldn't be surprising considering he's got mandragora cells mixed into his body too. He gently tucks them into his waistband, relieved they're calm and unstressed, and begins wondering if he could politely ask them later for a few root tendrils to make tea or maybe even use their fruit as a snack. Though he quickly remembers the fruit turns poisonous if picked forcefully. So he makes a mental note to ask politely when the time is right. Right then, he picks up the presence of some hunters nearby and starts questioning why anyone would climb a dangerous snowy mountain unless they had no choice. But he decides to check them out anyway since he could use some gate stones. Meanwhile, one of the hunters is complaining that they've been abandoned to die because their so-called teammates ditched them as bait. The other one shouts for him to focus because a wave of monster rabbits is charging right at them. The monstrous rabbits leap with their grotesque, wide-open mouths full of writhing tentacles and fangs. The guy manages to summon a force field just in time to avoid becoming lunch. But he quickly realizes the barrier won't hold long and deeply regrets every life decision that led him here. Panicking, he screams for help. Just as his shield shatters, our boy swoops in with an entrance that screams Superman landing energy. Both hunters freeze, stunned that an actual person just casually appeared out of nowhere. The sheer pressure of his presence sends the snow rabbits into a frenzy, and without hesitation they scatter like terrified rodents, leaving the 2 hunters completely blown away that B-class monsters ran for their lives from a half-naked man. They rush to thank him, introducing themselves as Xiangju and Kim Taeyan, and ask for his name. He tells them, though neither has ever heard anything like it. Kim Taeyan wonders aloud if he might be some reclusive hunter, judging by his rugged, caveman-like look. Meanwhile, our guy flips the question and asks what they're doing wandering around a death trap like this since they don't seem stronger than D-class. The 2 explain they're on a mission to capture a chimera alive for a hefty bounty, which immediately grabs his attention. One clarifies that the chimera thereafter escaped from a lab and jumped into a gate mid-chase, which comes as a massive relief since it confirms they aren't tracking him. He then asks where their equipment is, wondering how they ended up wandering the wild empty-handed and whether they at least have a gate stone. The guy explains their so-called teammates bailed with all their gear and that the betrayal had been planned from the beginning, something he now regrets not noticing. Hearing this, our boy silently stares toward their gate. The hunters try explaining they're suffering from mana contamination and won't survive much longer. They desperately ask if he has a way out, since humans can only stay in the demon realm for a limited time before needing purification or they'll die from overexposure. One of them even begs him for help, saying he's got a pregnant wife waiting back home. But before the guy can finish the sentence, our dude suddenly freezes like he just felt the universe hiccup, then blasts off into the air like the Hulk, leaving them stuck mid-monologue with the wind smacking them in the face. Somewhere else, the robot-looking Chimera is standing right on the edge of a cliff. The same hunters who bailed earlier try to jump it from behind. But the thing slowly turns around, making it crystal clear it's about to delete them from the planet. As our boy rolls up to the scene, his eyes go wide, wondering if he's already too late. Up ahead, blood and gear are strewn all over the ground, and a flickering blue energy orb is slowly dying out at the cliff's edge. That makes him figure the hunters panicked and bolted. They even ditched all their stuff. And from the mix of kid-sized and animal prints, looks like the test subject switched shapes mid-fight. He remembers what the monster hunter told him earlier. It's a lab experiment that leapt through the gate while escaping. Built out of liquid metal, so it can shapeshift whenever it wants, but the material's so rare they made it small and compact, like a child. Chan peers over the cliff and can barely keep a straight face. This little mechanical gremlin somehow took out 5 B-rank hunters like it was nothing. Meanwhile, back with our beat-up hunter duo, Kim's desperately shaking Zhangju, telling him not to give up. But the poor guy coughs and says his whole body's tainted now, he's finished. Kim refuses to accept that and brings up his family. Zhangju uses the last of his strength to ask Kim to tell them he's sorry. Kim yells at him to hang in there, swearing miracles happen. Right then, somebody steps into view. Kim instantly tenses up, but it's just Chayan, casually walking back with all their bags. The second the monster hunter spots him, he bolts over, drops to his knees, and basically starts worshipping Daddy Chayan to save their lives. Our hero's confused for a second, then remembers he told them he didn't have a gate stone. That's when Kim yanks 2 10 million yen checks from his pocket and begs him to sell them one. He keeps babbling that if they don't get out right now, they're dead for sure. Chayan stares at the checks, doing the math in his head. He knows the money's useless here, but the second he steps back into the human world, it's gonna be real nice to have. So, with every ounce of generosity his chaotic little heart can manage, he pulls out a gate stone. Kim drops into a perfect 90-degree bow and starts thanking him non-stop, swearing he'll never forget this. The monster hunter scrambles back to his partner, yelling they're getting the hell out of here, while Chayan just eyes the 2 checks, trying to figure out where to stash them. As the pair head for the gate, Chayan asks what gate stones are going for these days and hears they've hit 1 million yen each. Ever the humble guy, he says he feels like he just got overpaid, puts a hand on Zhangju's shoulder, and casually mentions he'll give him some change. Kim looks lost until it clicks, Chayan's pumping mana straight into his buddy. He instantly freaks out and yells at him to stop. Transferring mana like that is insane, and if it backfires, both of them could drop dead. Kim's already bracing for the worst, but then Zhangju suddenly shoots upright like someone hit the reset button, all the demonic energy inside him completely burned away. He grabs Kim in a sobbing hug while Kim just stands there stunned, trying to process what the hell just happened. Chayan turns to leave as Zhangju shouts that he'll never forget this debt. Kim's still frozen, wondering who in the world this Chayan guy even is. Our boy gets home, pauses outside for a second, then lets out a relieved breath when he senses nobody's inside. The mandra plants are starting to stir. Their leaves look all droopy and depressed, which immediately sets off alarm bells, so he gets right to planting them. Once they're in the dirt, he's still worried, they look miserable. Chayan stares at their sad little faces and figures it's either trauma from being yanked out of their home soil or they're just starving. To test the second idea, he feeds a little mana into the ground. The monster plants perk up like they just slammed a triple espresso, and he can't help but grin. While he's talking to his new leafy roommates, he feels something behind him. He's pretty sure it's that mechanical creature the hunters were after, though it's weird it followed him all the way here. He ignores it for now, stashes the cash, and starts digging through the loot bags. Jackpot, spare clothes, sleeping bags, cooking gear, and then his eyes light up when he spots a packet of ramen. He hasn't had that stuff since the orphanage, and the nostalgia hits like a truck. Starving and pumped, he decides to cook it right then and there. He follows the directions as best he can, heads to the lake for water, then realizes he has no idea how much is enough. Before he can overthink it, those sharp-toothed lake fish leap out like they're begging to be dinner. Remembering how people back home used to throw whatever into ramen, he flicks the soul out of one unlucky fish with his fingers. Next he hunts for extras: eggs, maybe some green onions. He finds these weird capsule-looking eggs and grabs a handful. No green onions in sight, so fresh tree leaves will have to do. He dumps everything in the pot and calls it prepped. That's when the little robot steps out, clutching its belly like it's dying of hunger, staring at the pot. Chan lights the fire, notices the instructions don't say when to add the fish, so he just throws it all in together. As the smell starts rising, the monster plants immediately start gagging like they're about to hurl, and Chayan quietly wonders if ramen always smelled this bad. The stench drifts over to the mechanical creature, who starts swaying like it's high on the aroma. It floats closer, decides it wants in, then suddenly morphs into a puppy. It remembers from the lab that humans go nuts for dogs, so it starts limping over, laying the fake whimpers on thick. Chayan watches the whole performance with a completely straight face, not even a little surprised. He knows the thing's just trying to drop his guard and the limp is total BS. Looking at the over-the-top cute act, he figures it's still just a kid, clueless, and wonders how something this dumb managed to escape the lab and cross into the demon realm alone. Playing along, he asks if it wants some ramen. The creature starts drooling on cue. Right in front of them is a bubbling cauldron of chaos that could kill a grown man, but whatever, they both dig in. The second the dog takes a bite, it freezes, trying to compute the flavor. Chayan, though, gets blasted straight back to orphanage hot pot night, smiles huge, and declares it tastes exactly like home. The nostalgia's so strong it completely overrides the actual horror show on his tongue. Meanwhile, the poor mandra plants are one whiff away from meeting their maker. After they finish, Chayan tells the dog cleanup time is over and it can go now. As the mechanical pup starts limping away, Chayan casually points out it's limping on the wrong leg this time. The robot instantly switches paws, and Chayan almost loses it trying not to laugh. Dishes done, he moves on to laundry, beating the pollen-covered clothes with a stick like his grandma used to do. He's not exactly a pollen fan, but he figures he can't keep rocking nothing but leather like some caveman forever. He tries to smack the fabric lightly so he doesn't rip it, but one swing winds up cracking the rock underneath and totally shredding the shirt in the process. After an awkward beat of silence, he sighs and grabs the final piece of clothing. That's when he spots the robot creature still hanging around, watching him from afar. Earlier, it had blended in as a rock, then as a fish while he scrubbed the dishes, and before that as a tree while he fussed over the flowers. He puts it together that the thing's been tailing him the whole time, quietly changing forms without ever getting too close. This goes on until a bee buzzes right onto its nose, making it lose it and screech that it hates bees. From the way it acts, he pegs the creature's age at under 5. Its voice comes out all robotic and clunky, a dead giveaway for young chimeras with fake memories shoved in their heads. He decides to brush it off, clears his throat to let it know he's onto it, and tosses out a casual line about how gorgeous the Phoria flowers are. Meanwhile, he wraps up the laundry and grumbles that the chore was tougher than he figured. Too bad he notices the clothes are way too small for him, which stings like a waste after all that work. He strings the laundry up on a silk thread, then heads over to check on the mandrieras. The creature, spotting its chance, snatches the fresh shirt and slips it on, dying to look just like him. After claiming the shirt as hers, she shifts into a little human girl. Meanwhile, he sees the Mandrora kids fighting the dirt. Their leaves are drooping and their roots look parched, which is weird since he already yanked out all the weeds. Puzzled, he pokes around and finds the soil packed with worms and junk, choking the plants from rooting down right. He kicks himself for not tilling it first. This slip-up could have put the Mandra kids in real jeopardy. Determined to fix it, he starts prepping a garden patch about the size of his cabin. Just then, the mechanical girl steps right up and says hi. He's caught off guard hearing her voice for real. She asks if the house is his, and he confirms it is. She jumps to the conclusion that he must be a demon realm local. Figuring he'll toy with her a bit, he goes with it and asks what tribe she's from. The question throws her, but she wings it, saying she's from some far-off spot beyond the waterfall, one he'd never tracked down. He cracks a joke, asking if that makes her from the coconut tribe. And without skipping a beat, she nods all proud, like duh, that's exactly it. When he brings up the shirt, she shrugs it off, explaining that in her tribe, finders keepers is the rule. It's just how they roll. He's cracked up by her reasoning, lets her have it, and asks what brings her all the way out here. She says she got booted from her tribe and shyly asks if she can crash with him, pointing out no bugs and an actual roof feels pretty secure overall. All this while fidgeting with her thumbs like she's prepping for an Oscar-worthy sad puppy audition. He gets that she's just hunting for a quiet spot to crash. He says sure, but only if she chips in and handles some chores. Her eyes go wide with excitement, and she asks what he needs her for. Pumped to tackle any job he doles out, he tells her they gotta set up a veggie bed so the mandras can settle in proper. She snatches the stick, strikes a badass stance, and boasts she's got the muscle for it. Then she tears into the soil like it's buttercream frosting. Watching her blast through the earth without breaking a sweat, he thinks she's either terrible at playing human or clueless about how regular kids even act. He finally gives his name and asks hers. She freezes, totally busted since she's nameless. Pulling from the flowers she spotted earlier, she announces her name's Kim Nari. He clocks that she ripped it straight from Forthia, but she's all in now and says it deadpan twice. Pretty soon the bed's done, and Cheon even rigs a tidy stone border around it. Seeing the mandra roots perk up so happy makes him wish he'd gotten to this ages ago. But then Kim goes all quiet. He catches the vibe and asks why the water works. She swipes at her eyes and says the mandragoras remind her of her buddies, which stops him cold and makes him wonder if lab rats like her even knew what friends were. Before he can probe, a piercing, ear-splitting shriek rips through the woods. He tells her it's just monsters scrapping it out. Kinda the soundtrack around here, but Kim balls up in fear and says she saw a baby chick earlier, right before she stumbled on his spot, and now she's scared it's in deep. Chan nods, and she adds it looked half-chewed already. He lays it out straight, it's probably toast soon. Seeing her shake, he figures she wants to play hero but can't force the words out. She mumbles that she can't save monsters, and it clicks, the brainwashing's got her brain fried, blocking her from calling her own shots. So instead of bossing her, he floats the idea, all gentle, that the chick might pull through if she circles back for it. And boom, that's enough to launch her into a full sprint. Meanwhile, in the trees, these wasp horrors with double rows of nightmare sideways chompers are swarming the hurt chick. Just as one dives in for the kill, Kim explodes onto the scene like a Red Bull-fueled whirlwind, snaps one's head right off with a kick, and yells she'll rescue the chick come hell or high water. Mid-brawl, she flashes back to the lab. The other Chimera brats hated her guts for always topping the combat rankings. That bumped them into the worst experiments, the ones with sky-high flop rates. They swiped her stuffed animal, slammed her down, and snarled she should throw a fight for once. Even spat it'd be better if she never existed, all while stomping her senseless. She never got it, she was just following orders. Now glaring at the beasts, she howls for them to quit it. She screams ganging up on the weak is messed up, then hauls off and punches the last wasp into orbit. Back home, Kyan's chill as he drips mana to the mandra roots, low-key channeling his inner plant whisperer. When Kim rolls up, she's bolting straight for him, clutching the chick and hollering for backup. Freaking that it won't come to, he tells her to ease up and breathe. As he leans in for a peek, something about the tiny furball tugs at his memory. Kim's bawling, losing it over whether the fluff nugget's checking out. Cheon keeps his cool, offers to inspect it closer, slips a hand over and feeds it some mana, then chills when he sees the bite's not a death sentence. Every monster's mana packs its own backstory. And even shrunk and recolored, Cheon clocks it's the same beast he skinned way back. He strikes a detective stance, puzzling why it miniaturized so hard, while Kim hounds him on if it'll croak. But Cheon calms her, the critter's just starved out and shriveled from hunger pangs. He's already dosed with mana, so if they back off, it'll bounce back solo. But Kim crashes into a flashback spiral, yanked back to the lab and her shredded doll. Voice wobbling, she insists they can't ditch it, it's flopping like a defeated flapjack. She squeezes it close, cranks up the doe eyes, and begs to keep it, vowing she'll care for it right. Kyan grins and cautions it might balloon too big to wrangle, but she counters she'll ration the grub. He caves to the adorable onslaught, and her eyes explode like fireworks on the 4th. He quips it could moonlight as their watchdog or guard bird, anyway. Right then, the fluffball blinks awake, totally lost, scans the room, zeroes in on Cheon like it knows him, and lets out a deep, growly coo. Kim yelps at the noise, hoists it high with a squeak, saying it's talking at last, while the bird just gawks, wondering what fresh nightmare this is. She smushes it in another hug as it thrashes in vain, and Cheyenne hangs back, baffled how to unpack this circus. The fluffball lets out another yell, demanding to be released, which throws Cheyenne for a loop since he can actually make sense of it. A couple moments later, Kim bundles it up like a burrito and beams that the treatment's all done. Then says she's already got a name picked out. While the bird keeps wriggling, she explains that since it acts like a pigeon, she's naming it Coo, which cracks Chi up a bit. The pissed-off BB immediately starts ranting at Kim for picking such a dumb name. But she can't understand a word, so she pours a whole bucket of water over its head, figuring it must be parched. Then she stops, looking puzzled, and asks Cheyenne why the bird's now puffed up like a water balloon. He tells her that's likely plenty of hydration for the moment, so she bolts off to fetch food instead. Meanwhile, Cheyenne decides it's high time to set up a real storage cabinet since their gear's stacking up everywhere. But when he goes to cut the wood, it crumbles like flimsy cardboard. He's baffled because he built the table and share no problem with the same approach. The fluffball's obviously over his crap and snaps that it's soft wood, so it won't hold up. Chan gets that wood types make a difference and asks which color wood's the toughest. The bird fires back redwood without thinking, but then it locks up mid-sentence as it hits that it just got understood. It gapes at Cheyenne in shock, wondering if he's been hearing it the entire time. Eyes locked, it stumbles upright and fires up its mind skill to probe Cheyenne's thoughts. But zilch happens as the telepathy flops. Still, Cheyenne just glances around all innocent and says he doesn't spot any red trees close by. He muses if they grow in some other area while the bird freaks out, clocking that its psychic powers just got shut down. Finally, it drops the pretense and straight up asks Cheyenne if he can hear it. Cheyenne says it's not exactly hearing, but the words just pop into his head, then turns the tables by asking how a monster can even grasp human speech like that. He reckons the bird must be one of those ultra-rare smart monsters that pop up against the odds, but it's his first run-in with one this close. Cheyenne then cuts to the chase and asks if it's the same bird from earlier, which the fluff admits, saying it returned because it wanted to see him again. Since Cheyenne saved its hide, it figured it'd return the favor if their paths crossed. Not missing a beat, Cheyenne says help him out right this second. That throws the BB off, but it sighs, steadies itself, and agrees to lead him to the red trees. Meanwhile, not too far off, Kim's sprinting like crazy, weaving through fireballs exploding behind her, screaming at the attacker to lay off. Tears pour down her face as she sobs that it's way too hot. And bam, a blast slams her face first into the ground. Her brain nearly blacks out as panic surges, convinced the labs tracked her down and it's over. Right then, somebody emerges from the flames with long hair billowing like a budget anime side character. Checking his tracker, he locks in that she's the mechanical target they're hunting. Powering up another shot, he mutters that his neck's on the line too, and launches a fireball at Kim, who can only stare in resignation. But before it connects, our hero pulls the ultimate badass move, stepping between them and casually snuffing the attack like it's a gnat. Koo quickly says the tree hunt can hold since the kid's the main thing right now. Cheyenne sees that Kim's scared shitless of fire and looks totally unhinged mentally. He opts to douse the flames first, and the fluffball backs him, tossing in that only a total scumbag would target a kid. Rapunzel shoots a glare and mocks Cheyenne, calling him a caveman, then warns he'll smash him if he doesn't step aside. Cheyenne claps back that this Rapunzel wannabe yaps too much, which lights his fuse. The dude shrieks that Cheyenne's wrecking his epic entrance and flings a huge fireball his way. Cheyenne just lifts a finger and does a Frisia special, flicking the blast aside like a lit match. The boom behind Rapunzel is epic, and he stands there frozen, trying to wrap his head around it. Rubble starts tumbling, but it's game over as he's buried under the heap. A bit later, Kyan approaches Kim and checks if she's alright, who wipes her eyes and thanks him for killing all the fire. He then drops some solid wisdom that next time fear hits, she should sock it square in the face. As he heads toward Rapunzel, he yanks him up by the hair and keeps the motivation going, but suddenly trails off. He stares at the wig in his grip without a word and clocks that the guy below's rocking full-on cue ball baldness. When Kim spots the shiny dome, she cracks up laughing and says the guy doesn't seem so scary anymore. Our boy glances her way and wonders how she ever let a total scrub like this push her around. The Phoenix Fluffball jumps in to fill him in on Kim's whole ordeal using his mental resonance power. This power lets him plunge into someone's past and beam it to others. In the vision, he watches a nutjob scientist laughing like he birthed villainy itself. The guy strides toward a half-awake Kim and notices she's inching toward self-awareness. With fingers flaring like mini blowtorches, he starts torturing her under the guise of a toughness check. Seeing that, has Cheon softly pat Kim's head and tell her she held up great. He resolves to help her shatter the trauma cycle. Bit by bit, he turns to the little phoenix and asks what to do with the cue ball. And Kim's eyes spark with a sneaky plan. Together, they lash the sorry sap to a massive rock and dangle him off a waterfall. Kim says the water'll quench his fire and dial down the scary. When the guy comes to, he looks straight up baffled and realizes this ain't what he bargained for. Kim folds her arms and calls him a mean bald dude again for kicks. Our boy sighs and tells her not to rag on folks for their appearance, but she shoots him a stink eye while gripping a pot like a club. Gu asks what he's up to and Kyan says he's grabbing water for ramen. Kim perks right up since Cheon's fish ramen's her all-time fave. He pokes fun by asking if the coconut tribe chows down on fish ramen too. She freezes, then boasts that the coconut tribe totally digs it. Meanwhile, the bald guy quietly sizes up his predicament and pegs his captor as at least A+ rank hunter, or maybe way beyond. He suspects Cheon could be masking even bigger power. As the crew rounds up ramen fixings, the bald guy gawks at them blankly. Thinking dangling a dude from a waterfall then slurping noodles nearby feels a tad extreme, Kim erupts from the water like a pint-sized kraken clutching 3 fish monsters in her grip. Our hero eyes her haul and tells her to chuck 2 back and hang on to 1 since he's not operating a fish stand. The bald guy observes from the sidelines, part terrified and part baffled, wondering if chucking that fish beast into ramen might make it taste like pure seawater. He also clocks they've sloshed way too much water in the pot and starts questioning if these folks even get what ramen's meant to be. Before they unleash cooking mayhem, he hollers for them to halt and swears he'll cook if they cut him free. Before long, Baldy poses at their slapdash wooden table looking oddly intense, like he's starring in a cooking competition with phantom spotlights on him. He grumbles that folks might call ramen basic, but his whole life's riding on this bowl right now. As he eyes the starving stares fixed on him, he dubs ramen a pure grub and falls back on the most standard recipe, mainly cause he doesn't know squat else. He eyeballs the water for 3 servings, and once it's bubbling, he adds the noodles and seasoning. He figures mentally it's about 4 minutes 30 seconds. But with no clock, he starts timing the beats with his pulse. After figuring it's about 200 beats in, he hauls the noodles up to air out for that ideal chewy snap. When he's finally done, he sighs that kimchi would have been killer, but being stuck in the demon realm, this'll hit the spot just fine. He serves up the ramen with a flourish, and they stare for a beat before piling in. That first slurp rockets them to taste paradise, and Kim with the fluff ball looks straight up shocked that grub could slap this hard. Cheon, though, just zeroes in on wolfing his down like it's a race. A short while later, the crew's lounging there bloated while the bald dude shifts awkwardly, waiting for the score. Cheon eyes him and asks what he wants for whipping up such godly noodles, vowing he'll hook him up with whatever. The bald man doesn't hesitate and hits the dirt on his knees, begging for Cheon's mentorship and introducing himself as Namiseak. Our hero shoots him a puzzled look and asks what sort of guidance he's after. Nam lays it out. Cheon's hands down the toughest guys he's ever crossed paths with and figures a beast like that built this cabin for some hardcore long-haul training. He brags he can whip up all kinds of eats, name drops bogus chef creds, and slips in that he apprenticed with his old man as a short-order cook to sell it. Eager to prove his worth, Nam pitches hopping between the human and demon worlds for supplies, even offering to foot the bill for pointers. At last, he cops to his real aim, hitting A-class hunter status. Of course, our boy probes why he jumped Kim. Nam pauses and asks if he means the machine thing, but Cheon shuts it down and says she's coconut tribe. Nam clocks it quick and plays along, acting like he was in on it. He says going after her was personal, not for cash or clout, and he didn't give a damn about the kid. He just needed to ace the hunter promo test. Cheon folds his arms and tells him to get up for a spar. Before Nam can fire back, Kim Nari steps up and demands a do-over with the fireball-tossing uncle. Nam grins and cautions her not to sleep on him, but Kyan asks if he can crack an adamantite boulder, tougher than diamonds. Nam concedes only A-class can, and before he can react, Kim pulverizes the rock in his ego in one smooth swing. Turns out Nam was born with insane gifts and unlocked his powers at just 8. While other kids were fumbling times tables, he drilled like a maniac and shot up the ladder so fast it had vets second-guessing their careers. By 20, he was a rock-solid B+ hunter with stars in his eyes. He fantasized about being the ultimate hunter, the type whose rep boomed across dimensions. But the universe had other plans. Right around when folks usually awaken, his hair started ghosting him. Through his 20s, that lush mane faded to a ghost story till he was stuck with a gleaming scalp and a hairline that looked like it tapped out. He chased every fix under the sun, but the docs finally told him to quit burning cash and face facts. Boom, just like that, the sharp-looking wunderkind with skills and swagger watched it all crumble. With the hair went his swagger, and without that, his hunter grind slammed to a halt. That is, till one offhand day, he stumbled on a TV spot with Dr. Han, a boffin who'd unearthed some wild liquid metal in the demon realm. The geezer spilled that he'd sloshed it on his noggin by accident and sprouted a lush head of locks at 90. Nam almost teared up from the spark of hope. When the host grilled if he'd brew a baldness fix, the doc dropped that he'd forged the metal into a machine beast instead. Nam nearly flipped, dead sure folks needed a hair cure way more than a fancy robot sidekick. Days later, word hit that the machine beast had bolted to the demon realm. With no rules out there, he pursued it, scheming to snag it and slather the stuff on his bare dome. Too bad real life clocked him harder than planned when a kid wrecked him. Our hero notes that Nam didn't tag her once. Chan tells him to grind harder or he'll never cut it as a spar buddy. Nam swears he'll step up while our guy wraps a redwood shelf, nodding thanks to Gu for the tips and shooting a look at Nam. Despite the day's beatdown, the dude seems steady, dialed in, and quietly conjures a flaming scythe in his grip. Gu jabs that Nam's got fire chops, but he's still getting owned by a squirt. Cheyenne coolly points out Kim's no regular kid. And as the scrap rolls on, that rings true. Nam lunges and slashes with his fiery scythe, but Kim dodges last second by melting into liquid. Before the dude can clock it, she snaps back and boots him in the jaw, launching him till he slams a cliff with a boom. Kim plants her feet and proclaims she's over fearing fire. Nam sprawls there foggy, musing if this is his ceiling at last. But he hauls up anyway, stealing that he never bails, no matter the odds. He calls for another go, but freezes feeling blood trickle from his nose. Chan eyes him and asks how long he's been in the demon realm. Nam swabs his face and says 9 days. Our hero warns that sticking longer means Manatane land him, and Nam gets it with a nod. Cheon drops that he's got the chops to hit a whole new class, which floors Nam. The guy's like, he figured anyone flunking the hunter test 3 years running was toast and he's bombed it 6 times. Still, Cheon urges him to keep pushing, saying his mana's just not ripened yet. He tips him to cleanse it back home, and Nam bows deep, dubbing him brother. Cheon vows he'll mold him into an A-rank beast someday. Soon enough, Nam's by a portal, geared to dip. He asks if they need Jack from the human side, and the gang hollers for ramen. Kim grins and wishes him luck, and Nam shoots back he'll smoke her next round. Right before porting out, he spins and asks if anyone's seen his wig, but Cheon swears he hasn't a clue. Once he's gone, Go pipes up worried if Nam's solid. Cheon asks what gives, and the fluff nugget says Nam might flip and drag more hunters here. Cheon probes his take on the dude, and Gu-Loki confirms every word Nam dropped was straight. The vibe amps Cheon to mentor Nam harder, and Kim finally asks if he can really get the fluff ball. He nods and offhand mentions he even crafted the shelf off the bird's pointers. Nosy, he asks if the spot looks tidy now, and Kim says it was too dim to gauge. Cheon catches the drift and slaps in some windows quick, flooding the place with cozy sun. Kim beams, digging the fresh glow, which has our boy pondering how to keep it lit past dusk. When Kim wonders where the light'll come from, Kyan says glowstones, crystals that beam natural in the dark. He aims to string him overhead for a mellow starry vibe. Gu starts beating sweat and asks where the hell Cheon plans to score those glowstones. Cheon says the volcanic zone. Gu blurts it's one of the deadliest hunter haunts and mutters it's his old stomping grounds too. Cheon catches the dip in Gu's voice even yapping home, and Kim senses it as well. She turns to Cheon and asks what the bird spilled since he sounds bummed. Cheon spells it, Gu's stressing the volcanic trek. so he offers to head there solo. Kim flat out refuses to hang back, saying she's done being scared of fire and wants in on the trip. Cheon looks over at Gu, who sighs and says he'll tag along too since he's got some stuff to take care of there anyway. With that, the full squad's geared up for their next quest. As Kyan gets their supplies together, the Mandrora roots nearby are goofing around in the grass with Nam's lost wig, totally clueless about its old owner's drama. Way off, buried in the volcanic zone, the earth shakes like something huge is waking up under the lava pools. A creepy beast pokes its head up and belts out a spooky howl that bounces through the fiery hellscape. Word is there are 3 spots in the demon realm where even the gutsiest hunters wouldn't set foot, and the volcanic area is one of them. For starters, the ash drifting around is so scorching it can fry human flesh, and the toxic fumes blended and burn right through your lungs. But there's Kim, casually dunking her toes in bubbling magma like it's a spa tub. The pint-sized phoenix just gawks, totally speechless. The fluff nugget reckons it makes sense for something obviously not human to shrug off the heat. But what really throws him is how our dude's holding up fine. John just says he's a chimera hunter. He might pass for human these days, but he rebuilt himself into this after his change. Then he checks if the phoenix is cool rolling with him. And the fluffball says it's beats going solo again. Seeing the pair deep and talk about something heavy, Kim pouts and wants to jump into the chat. That's when he recalls she grilled him about his backstory once. She just chuckles back and says no need now cause she already knows he's a demon realm local like her. Later, they hike up the volcano, and Kim spots a fat plume of smoke pouring from what seems like the summit. Up top, they score the glowing stones they showed up for. But down low, a giant flame toad's bawling its eyes out. Right then, Kim clocks another one close by. Master Gu pieces it quick. The dude toad's mourning caused the lady croaked on the trek. He tacks on that the eggs strapped to her back are gonna fry since she dropped in a super hot zone. The floofball gets bummed at the sad twist. That's when our boy hatches a plan. He tells Kim to hold tight and plunges right into the volcano's core. He touches down square in front of the toad, who shoots him a death stare on sight. Out of nowhere, the thing blasts a wall of flames his way. But he bolts clean through the inferno and taps his finger light on the toad's snout. That easy poke drops the hulking beast cold. Turns out Kyan hit it with killer cobra venom. A poison strong enough to floor even a flame-resistant toad. Though it'll probably only keep it out for a few minutes tops. Seeing him stroll out of the blaze without a scratch feels straight up surreal. So Kim asks if he's alright. He swears he's good as gold since he's got flame toad DNA in him too. There's legit nothing this guy's system wasn't dosed with. Anyway, he spots a couple eggs already toasted, but he double-checks the rest'll make it. By the time Papa Toad snaps to, he finds the eggs hitched to his back and hops over to honor his lost mate right away. After that, the critter bounds sky-high and plops down by Kim. It shoots her one long look, and she lights up, positive it's thanking her. Kyan knows it was eyeing its partner, but he lets the airhead fluff dream big. Later, Kim yanks out rocks almost her head size. He cautions her not to smash one on her foot. The phoenix is wiped, flopping to the dirt and feeling lame when he thinks back to hurling rocks like playthings once. He tells him no sweat helping and to just link up with his buddies like planned, but that sets the fluffball off. He flaps mad and squawks that monsters don't do friends. He's not linking up anyway. He just wants to drop off some gifts. Our hero's throne learning even smart monsters get the blues. All flustered, the mini fluffball spits that he's only swinging by cause he hates not saying bye proper before bailing. Then the phoenix's vibe shifts. He gets real and drops that his smarts let him dig the world's wonders and all its critters, but it was a drag too. He had to watch the rest chow down on beasts without blinking, and that left him isolated. He felt like Einstein trapped with a pack of dim apes. To ditch that soul-crushing alone time, he split from the group. And now he couldn't care less if they made it or not since he never clicked with them for real. As the baby phoenix wrestles another stone from the cliff face, which yanks loose and crashes on something down low, Kim hears a sharp crack just to spot an egg on the ground split open. She frets that the phoenix offed it, but our hero says the shell's built tough. The chick inside's gotta hammer away till it's buff enough to bust out solo. Kim pities the little guy and floats taking it home, but the tiny phoenix blows up, hollering it's too risky if it hatches. Chan recalls a nest that's spot on for it, so he figures they'll haul it along. Kim's over the moon carrying it the whole way, while Gu warns M this is his first weird egg like this. At that, she shuts him down cold with the comeback that it's his bad the egg cracked anyway. Our boy tells the fluffball he'll stick around to watch their backs, and they keep mining. Later, back at base, he's surprised spotting the hair-challenged dude waiting for round 2. Nam eagerly volunteers to grab the bag and brags he's got the strength to lug it. As Cheon warns it's a literal ton, the sack slams earth. Pissed, Nam wonders what the hell's in there weighing that much. But our boy clocks the guy's tearing up a bit and softly asks how he scored that rap on his mug. Figuring he scrapped, our boy says he didn't peg him as the type who always eats dirt. Mortified, Nam bolts to prep the grub. Later, Kim pokes our hero on what he's shaping from the glowy stone, and he says he wants it as a bulb. His genius hack straight wows Kim, while the flame-toad assist proves his heart's massive too. She says he's straight-up dad material now, but when he quizzes her on her pops from the coconut tribe, Kim clams up quick. Meanwhile, close by, the phoenix is basking in the sunset warmth when he's jumped by a stack of 3 pint-sized pests piled high. The Mandrora on top springs off the base and dives in with a spin attack. But the mini rascal just ricochets off the pale puffball catching rays. Later, Nam dishes a sweet potato thing that's hot with the youngsters. He owns his chef game, Stoke the easy kid looks killer for 0 sweat. Kim and Gu are legit blown away by it, but Cheyenne wants the scoop on his earlier ask before digging in. Nam holds out on the tail at first, but eventually cracks that he got jumped by some air rankers heading to sign up at the Hunters Guild. But they told him to quit sucking their vibes by sharing air. That lit him up and he swung on M, the rest's obvious. Nam owns he snapped when they asked if his pride dipped as quick as his hair. Then Cheon asks when the next exam drops. Our boy says, it's in 60 days. At that, he pitches coaching Nam one-on-one, and the bald dude's pumped. But his hype fades when he hears Step 1 is taking dish duty from Kim. Next up, scrub all the volcano grit off the shiny rocks, leaving the sap floored. He probes on the real training, but our boy Cold tells him to hop to if he doesn't want to stay B-rank trash forever. With that, he dips with Kim to fish while Nam grinds through. Cause unlike the haters think, he's a dude who clawed his spot with sweat and grit. A real Chad who fights to the finish. He drags the hefty sack into the woods. The scene cuts to the river where Kim's ticked off that she can't snag a single bite. She gets envious watching the bald dude haul in all the fish. Meanwhile, Nam hollers at his master for backup with the fish gunning for his skin since water-type beasts are his kryptonite. Cheyenne gets annoyed at how helpless he is and schools him to just wrap his body in a magic shield. But the bald guy gripes that he still can't get his head around it. So Cheyenne tells him to grab his crystal. The second he touches it, all the power drains from his arms and they start shaking. Our hero breaks it down. This is the vibe from a rare rock packed with pure condensed magic. He throws in that Nam's body's the same deal, loaded with magical juice, but he straight up blows at tapping it. Right then, he jabs the bald guy in the chest and boom, he can see the magic pumping through his veins. Our lead tells Nam to sense the magic cruising those pathways. And sure enough, the dude's arms glow up with a silver sheen quick. He coaches Nam to snag the stone again with mana surging through his limbs. With every bit of grit he's got, the bald guy flips on his inner Saitama jeans and hoists it overhead. Nam cackles like a nutjob when it clicks his master's chore grind had a point all along. Our boy tells him to stick to the task while channeling mana through his system, and the discount One Punch Man nods hard, teary-eyed and stoked to grind. Later that night, the trios crashed out under the glowstone's soft shine. Goose tossing and turning from his afternoon snooze. But out of nowhere, he perks up spotting Kim slipping out quiet in the dead of night. He tails Kim outside and sees her staring down. Bummed that her only outfit got grimy. She drops by the creek and starts scrubbing it gentle, aiming to freshen it up. The baby phoenix peeps her in silence and soon Cheon shows too, asking why she's doing laundry at this hour. Gu rolls his eyes at the dumb question and reminds him she's a girl with 0 backups to swap into. That stops Kyan cold, hitting him that while he's never sweated his threads, he might have missed the kid's basics. Kim wraps the wash and struts out of the water all proud just to spot Gu and Cheon posted up close. Not looking to spook her, Kyan plays it cool, saying the night breeze hits different and he's just strolling with the fluff ball. He asks if she's out wandering too and she nods shyly. Cheon then tells her to hold up a sec, loops a rope belt round her waist and sticks a couple flowers in it. Kim's eyes sparkle right away and she says it reminds her of him. Cheon grins and mentions that Foria just happens to be his top flower. A quick shuffle in the shrubs makes Kim jump, but Cheon chills her that it's just a steel grasshopper. Heading back, he softly asks if she wants any outfits or kicks, though his vibe comes off more dad-like than chill. Kim looks thrown and says she digs the getup he hooked her up with. The next morning, Kyan hits the human world by the District 13 slums, figuring it ain't fair for Kim to rock one outfit forever. The folks eye him shady, but he tunes it out, thinking it'd be smarter to drag Kim to pick her own stuff. Then it dawns that the human side might hit too hard after her mess. He cracks up to himself hunting a clothes spot near the slums when a kid rolls up and pitches guiding him there for 10,000 yen, bragging he knows a budget joint. Chien says he can square up after breaking change, which has the kid pegging him as another busted newbie who got jacked in the other realm. The boy probes if Kyan's even got dough for threads and tells him to tag along, saying he usually grabs cash up front but he'll slide this once. Cheon smirks as the kid drops his name as Bong-su, so he tosses his back. But Bong-gu just beams and says he'll stick with Big Brother. As they hike, Cheon low-key clocks how the slums flipped over the years. But before he can dwell, Bong-gu hits him with if he just awakened. Cheon cocks a brow and asks if he gives off that vibe. And Bong-gu spells it, since he popped out at a gate with zero gear, he figured Cheon got rolled in the demon realm. He tries to buck him up, saying it nails everybody eventually. Kyan chuckles and calls out that Bong-gu's sharp for a squirt. Huffed, Bong-gu swears he ain't a kid, hitting 17 and just stunted from crap eats. As they push on, Kyan spots a crew of sketchy goons chilling close. Bong-gu catches his look and warns quick not to dip into District 13. He drops that the spot's rep tanked since the space gang from District 11 crashed it. Even cops ghosted and the zone's basically no man's land now. He tacks on there in District 12 turf, the chill fringe of the dumps. Cheon takes it in quiet and ponders if the orphanage in District 13 held up after all this. Elsewhere, a tiny clothes shop rocks a buy one get one sign, but the owner's wiped. She regrets planting a spot where folks can barely feed kids, even with half her stuff being youth gear. She sighs, mulling a full pivot, when the door creaks open. Bong-gu bounces in first and hollers hey to Madam Park. She snaps back she ain't hitched and to drop the title. He brushes it with a laugh and says Cheon's hunting clothes while our hero dives straight for the racks. Park yanks Bong-gu aside and rags him for hauling broke hunters to her joint, griping she's stacked with IOUs waiting on paydays. The kid gets his cheeks yanked and protests he couldn't tell if the dude was loaded or not. The owner jabs that Cheon don't scream cash. Bong-su counters at least the guy's easy on the eyes and reminds her she told him to drag in sad sack hunters who echoed her gone brother. Park shoots back she dropped that once or twice and warns if it keeps up, they'll both hit the curb. Bong-gu bites that he never begged her help anyway, but Park sighs like a beat guardian and tells him to scrub up, swearing she'll slide him some cash after. Right then, Chan jumps in calm and says he wants to snag some threads. He whips out a 10 million yen check and owns it's his whole stack. The sight floors Park and Bong-su. Park flips to pro mode while Bong-su scrambles a chair and sets a spread with snacks and a drink for their surprise baller. As Bong-gu knots a napkin round Chan's neck, Park buzzes that they got it all from grown-up styles to kid fits. Cheon just asks for toddler girl outfits, a couple for himself, and some shoes. Park glows up since Kitty wears her jam and rolls out the fresh spring-summer line, lace, everyday stuff, and pink overload. Bong-gu hangs by, kneading his shoulders like a hyped sidekick. At the register, Park's barely containing her glee, having cleared over 100 pieces and gutted her shelves. She asks if he wants M shipped, but Cheon says he'll haul M. He then slides Bong-su a suit in 100,000 yen, saying he owes him one more solid. Outside, Bong-su sketched leading Cheon to the inn he name-dropped. When Cheon ducks in, Bong's brain spins. He puzzles how somebody drops cash and gear that easy. Scared it's a setup, he flashes on how snatchers bait kids with nice But part of him wonders if Cheon's legit good, like Park. When Cheon steps back out, he says the inn boss seems solid and the spot's tidy. He tosses Bongu a key and drops that he won't crash rough anymore. He adds he covered a year's rent, meals included, and spins to bounce. Bongu mumbles shaky if this is how snatches kick off, and Cheon reminds him he led the way there himself. As the portal flares up behind him, Bongo asks what the angle is since they hardly know each other and yet Cheon handed him all that. Cheon replies that the kid brought back memories of his own history, saying he used to scrape by the same way. He tells him to watch his back, and the portal whisks him back to the demon realm. Nam looks eased when Cheon pops back while Kim dashes over asking where he vanished to without a heads up. Cheon grins and says he went to grab her a present, which gets her glowing with hype. Gu looks floored by the pile of clothes he hauled in while Nam pouts that none of it's for him. Kim squeaks at how adorable the dresses are, and Cheon softly tells her to slip into whatever catches her eye. As the group ooze over the fresh threads, the egg in the cabin starts to twitch. As Cheon stacks the new outfits, he feels strangely chill from the basic chore. Kim suddenly explodes out of the room in a silk dress and ribbon hat, looking like a little royal. Sean asks if that's her top pick, and she shyly says she wants to test a couple more. Her shot at suspender pants flops hard, so she throws on one of Cheon's shirts and plays ghost. She keeps cycling through outfits with so much pep that both Gu and Sean can't help but crack up watching her. In the end, Kim settles on her fave because the chick design on the hoodie echoes Gu. Cheon tells her to stash the extras, and she bobs her head agreeably. The Phoenix then asks where Cheon aims to store all the clothes since space is tight. Cheon says he'll whip up a dressing room with a walk-in closet to sort it out. Guli clocks that means felling more trees, but Cheon smirks, saying he's got a trainee for the heavy lifting. He hollers for Nam, saying it's prime time for intense training. Nam barrels in pumped and lugs Cheon's leather getup, dubbing it workout gear. Cheon looks puzzled, so Nam breaks it down. The suit's laced with some toxin that nearly offed him when he grabbed it. He owns it's wild how Cheon's rocked the same thing daily like no big deal. Cheon thinks to himself he just never got around to scrubbing it right, then offhand tells Nam to throw it on instead. Nam locks up, totally stunned, while Cheon directs him to suit up and hack some lumber. Gu volunteers to point out which trees to drop. Nam gripes that the threads could flatline him. But before the beef can heat up, Kim abruptly shouts that the egg's shifting. The crew hustles over and Kyan says it's hatching any second. Nam, all jittery, asks if the thing'll be apocalypse level while Kim boldly says it'll likely be something sweet. While Kim and Nam bicker on, the egg cracks sudden and a tiny eye peeks through the shell. The pair flips in total opposite vibes as the critter inside starts pushing out. Out squirms a beast with razor claws, scaly hide, and a whipping tongue. But flipping Nam's dread, the thing winds up a weirdly cute chick-snake mashup that cocks its head and tweets like a songbird. Nam stands stock still in shock while Kim bounces with glee. Out of nowhere, the mini beast rockets right at Nam's mug, and he belts a freaked-out scream that rings through the place. Later, out in the grass, Gu whacks Nam's dome with a stick to hustle him on dragging wood, though Nam starts questioning if he's just seeing things now. The venom leaking through the suit turns every gasp tougher, and he quietly respects how Cheon wore the same rig without batting an eye. Back in the cabin, Cheon raps stacking the clothes when Kim bolts in, buzzing that the monster's chowing bread comb and acts chill. Chan grins and says the critter must know who pulled it through. They brainstorm a name and land on Sasa, ripping off its snaky vibe. Just as they lock it in, the little beast hops out of Kim's grip and she chases after it. Gu watches and says he's stoked they're clicking while Cheon turns to ask if the Phoenix knows the type since he's never crossed one. Gu owns he doesn't, but cautions Cheon to watch the Mandragora roots. When Cheon probes why, Gu lays out that volcanic critters crave plant monsters cause they're scarce there and zero in on ones packing heavy demonic vibes. As the wee snake wriggles toward the Mandra patch, Gu drops that it could be their built-in hunter. The group clusters to peep as the standoff ramps up between the sides. Kim volunteers to jump in and break it up, but Kyan nixes it and says in the demon realm, beasts gotta sort pecking order solo. Since both are green, he figures it's cool to let him hash it out natural. The scrap kicks off as Sasa pounces with claws at the tiniest Mandragora, but the bigger one zips in and tanks the hit. The Mandroras lock into a triangle setup, bracing for the follow-up. Soon, the second rude beast charges for a payback swing, but its strike gets parried by Sasawa's tail. Little Sasa smirks all cocky, though Gyuli warns it not to slack off yet. Right then, the smallest mandra leaps in from the rear and socks Sasa's cheek with its puny punch. The tap's soft, but plenty to make Sasa bawl and bail and sobs. Kim hustles to soothe the sad thing and settle it. Chayan calls the mandra roots the champs, and both Nam and Gu nod that the tussle was solid entertainment. Chayan tells the crew to hop back to tasks and Gu picks up bonking Nam on his gleaming scalp. Way off over a huge ocean, an eagle Chimera zips across the swells like it's racing time. Back home, Gu keeps prodding Nam to yank the logs harder while Kim and Sasa slather the wood with Gu to seal it from water. Chayan wraps the laundry and pauses to scan around. Pleased that the grind day's finally winding down. After 2 wide-awake days, Nam exhales easy and flings off the toxic leather top that almost broke him. He scopes the fresh changing room, eyeing every nook to check if it lines up with the blueprint he chased, and ponders if it came out decent. Before he can second-guess more, Kyan tells him he nailed it better than hoped. Kim picks up a light flower whiff drifting in the space, and soon the whole group clocks it too. The soothing aroma hits relaxing, so she asks why it smells floral. Chan breaks it down. Gu picked a fragrant wood strain that'd naturally freshen the outfits. Kim beams, spotting how even the mandragora roots and Sasa dig the vibe. Nam blinks at the name Sasa, clocking he never caught it before. Chayan mentions the tag could swap if somebody drops a winner. Nam jumps in with Snake Chick, while Kim pitches pack. Finally, Chayan hits Gu for his take, and the bird boldly floats grand footsteps in the drawer. Puzzled, Chayan asks what Gu's actual name is, and the phoenix says he went by Rocky Mountain Horseshoe once. Chayan blanks out for a sec before ditching the name mess altogether and rules the critter stays Sasa with 0 pushback. Gu then asks what's next on deck. Chayan says he's mulled a worry that never bugged him solo. He thinks they ought to slap up a fence round the pad to block snoopers from closing in. Nam looks iffy, saying he can't picture anybody rolling up to such a spooky spot on purpose. Still, Chan holds firm it's smart to play safe since even S-rank beasts or hunters could drop unannounced. Gu nods thoughtfully and suggests using a material filled with demonic energy. He mentions that the coastal region has a type of yellow quartz that is denser than black stone. If they use that luminous stone as the base for the fence, he explains it will not only be strong, but will also blow softly at night, making their home look warm like a campsite. Kim jumps with excitement the moment she hears they might be going to the beach, but Nam instantly loses his composure. The thought of the coastal region alone horrifies him, and before he can come up with an excuse, a sudden nosebleed saves him at the perfect moment. Acting weak, he puts on a faint damsel in distress act in front of Chayan and claims he needs to head to the human realm to drain his demonic energy. Chayan allows it but tells him to look after the mandragora roots in case they return late. Before leaving, Nam warns Chayan about the coastal region, saying even A-rank hunters and those below avoid the place since it would mean walking to their death. Chayan looks surprised, so Nam explains that the entire area is now ruled by 2 disaster-class monsters. These creatures were once chimera hunters created in a lab with faces like birds, but the bodies of humans. The thought of it makes even Chayan pause for a moment. Meanwhile, at the coastal region, a group of hunters is already on a mission to capture one of those same chimeras. One of them charges up a tracker shot and hurls it at the flying beast, landing a direct hit. Yet, the creature doesn't even flinch and keeps soaring ahead as if nothing happened. Thinking it is retreating, the hunters relax, calling the whole disaster-class story an exaggeration. One of them even suggests chasing it to finish the job. Their leader, however, stops them, saying they should wait for the monster to return to its lair. He explains that there are 2 chimeras in the region, and tracking both is safer than chasing one blindly. One of the younger hunters wonders aloud how the chimeras are still alive after 60 years, or how their bodies remain human-like despite becoming monsters. The captain responds that they are failed experiments and remnants of an old project meant to advance humanity. Though chimeras were once seen as a great success, the failed ones, he says, must be destroyed. Suddenly, one of the hunters spots the creature turning sharply in the sky, speeding back toward them faster than sound. The captain's eyes widen and he shouts for everyone to raise a barrier immediately. With one powerful flap of its wings, the Chimera shatters the hunter's barrier like glass, sending shards flying and knocking them off their feet. They realize too late that they picked the wrong fight. The captain looks up in horror and shouts for them to stop. But before the next strike lands, Kim appears with a metal barrier and blocks the attack. The Chimera pauses midair, startled to see another of its kind, and both descend cautiously. Kim insists that the sparrow uncle was bullying people, though Chaeyeon quietly notes it looks the other way around. One of the injured hunters calls his captain, saying a machine creature has appeared, which confuses the captain, so the guy shows him his tracker device. Chaeyeon instantly understands what's happening. Remembering Kim still carries a tracker from the human realm. He turns to the bird Chimera and asks if it remembers him, reminding it that they once shared a room and asking what number it was. The creature's eyes widen as Chan tells it that if one lives long enough, he gets to see everything. While the Chimera struggles to recall, the hunters whisper among themselves, planning to retreat. Chaeyeon warns that letting them escape will only cause more trouble for both sides and that it's better to finish things now. Then a faint memory resurfaces for the Chimera. The scent coming from Chaeyeon brings back an image of the lab where they once lay side by side. The same sharp odor of the Chimera cell fusion drug from the TDA experiments. Realization strikes and the creature calls him by his old designation number 17. The scene shifts back to the past when Bird Boy was running through the woods with his sister on his back. At that time, his sister began showing one of the side effects from the experiment that made him question whether taking her with him had really been the right choice. Maybe leaving her behind in that cursed lab might have been smarter after all. When his sister weakly mentions his wings are really warm, he bursts into tears, disappointed in his own helplessness. His wings are not big enough to fly both of them away, so he tells her to hang in there just a little longer. Just as he silently hopes someone would show up to help, he suddenly comes face to face with our boy, cluelessly pointing a flashlight right at him. When Bird Boy demands to know what Chaeyeon is doing there, he calmly replies that he came to warn him since he overheard the higher-up saying it was time to trash him. Birdhead thinks he sounds weird, but he gives him a reality check. He tells him that both he and his sister will be blown up by the detonation curse in 3 days. He suggests leaving his sister behind since she is not on the disposal list, meaning she can keep taking suppressant drugs to live longer. However, Bird Boy snaps back, saying someone like him who never experienced the side effects can never understand. He remembers how bad it got one time. So bad that his sister begged him to escape, saying she would rather live one more normal day outside than rot inside that living hell. As he realizes that the quality of life matters far more than its length, his wings suddenly expand to full size. With raw determination blazing in his eyes, he tells our boy to stop yapping and start fighting. But Chaeyeon just stares at him with those cold, dead eyes before suddenly summoning a gate. Birdhead is shocked to learn that a mere test subject like him even owns a gate key. He then looks him dead in the eye and offers him two possibilities. His human cells would either get corrupted by demon energy once he entered the demon realm, or his demon cells could absorb it and awaken instead. He believed it was a decent gamble since the detonator would not explode if he crossed into the demon realm. But Birdhead still wondered if surviving there was even possible. In an ideal world, you need to protect both your body and mind with a magic barrier. That is not something children like them can pull off. Still, Birdhead took him up on the offer and decided he would risk it for the biscuit. On his way out, however, he felt bad that they did not even know each other's names despite being roommates for so long. He introduced himself as Yubum, and our boy shared his name in return. Back in the present, our hero asks the hunter about his name, but they look completely clueless. When he asks why he was even there, they just stare back at him blankly like cavemen, saying they have no idea. He then sends them through the portal, and you instantly guesses right that he used his Oblivion flower cells, which erased the target's memory of the last 3 hours. He then calls you by name and the guy looks honored that he remembered. Kim asks if Mr. Sparrow is supposed to be his friend and our boy says he is from the Sparrow tribe. Bro then asks Kim if he is right about the Sparrow and Coconut tribes being good friends, and she instantly nods in agreement. While you stares in utter confusion, Kim suddenly apologizes for thinking he was a bad guy. After that, they head to Yu's home, which is ironically just a massive nest with a roof on top. There, the gang has a blast trying out a unique clam dish that tastes unlike anything they have eaten before. Kim gets really excited for more, but Yu humbly apologizes since he does not have the ingredients to make another batch. The little goblin, however, is undeterred and runs off to gladly catch double the number of clams he needs. Now that they are finally alone, Yu reveals he only managed to survive in the demon realm thanks to his immortality cells. Wasting no time, he then asks our boy if he ever thought about taking revenge on the lab. Qian admits he has thought about it every now and then, but he is not in any rush since life is actually going pretty well. When he throws the question back at you, the guy says he still has the detonation curse inside him, meaning he will eventually blow up like a firework. Putting that aside, our boy also notices you can use his wings quite well, and then asks if he can turn his head back to human form. Yu admits he can, but he refuses to do it because his sister's face was changed for life, and she would feel awful if he went back to normal while she could not. After all that, our boy asks if he knows he will only survive for another month at best. Yu is shocked that he knows that, and Birdhead flashes back to his time after he left Earth. He trained endlessly to develop enough mana to survive the demonic energy. Things were fine for a while when his magic and the demon realm's energy stayed in balance with each other. But one day, the energy went rampant inside his sister and severely damaged her mana hole. While trying to control the damage, he ended up permanently damaging his own core, too. Since then, he has just been getting by while his sister has been surviving on sleeping fruit, spending most of her life in slumber to slow the progression. That is when Cheon remembers that manhwa roots can be used to make a medicine capable of healing any mana hole, no matter how damaged it is. Elsewhere, in a dimly lit room, fruit is scattered across the floor while Birdhead's sister sits silently all by herself. At first, she trembles quietly in pain. But soon, the demon energy surges out of control, completely overtaking her body as she loses herself to it. Back with the boys, Yu is stunned to hear that he and his sister can actually be saved from their incurable condition. Our guy reveals that after Yu left, he studied alchemy and learned how to heal damage to the mana hole using water boiled with mandriga roots. It is explained that while the roots make up only a small part of the plant, they contain nearly all of its life force, making them incredibly potent. Cheon never imagined the plants he grew just for fun would turn out to be this valuable. He even offers to brew the medicine himself since you cannot travel to the human world to find an alchemist. In exchange, he asks the guy to look after the 2 airheads he will be leaving behind. Before departing, he asks you what he can pay with. And since the guy has no money, he offers a backpack stuffed to the brim with things hunters usually carry. With that, our boy returns to Earth and asks his lifelong companion, Bong-su, to help him find a skilled alchemist. Bongu remembers that a new branch opened in the slums about a year ago. As the kid talks about it, Chan notices sandbags tied to his arms, and Bongo proudly explains that he uses them to train his body. The boy boldly admits he wants to become strong like his big brother one day. A total boss who can dive into the demon realm with nothing but his fists. Outside the place, Bongo explains that the new manager there is famous for his excellent work. But when no one shows up, they spot the manager himself, pacing around and looking stressed out about missing his loan payment. Bongo instantly figures out that the poor guy is being harassed by loan sharks. The kid sighs, saying that taking loans in the slums is just a necessary part of any business. The manager was once a well-respected man, having worked at the city branch for over 20 years with solid results. But then, out of nowhere, he was demoted and dumped into the slums for reasons no one could explain. According to Bong-su, his former boss was the greediest bastard alive, famous for pocketing funds meant to support the slums and other districts. He suspects the manager got kicked out simply for daring to report the scumbag's crimes. Anyway, when the droopy-looking manager spots Bong-su, his face instantly lights up. The kid quickly tells him that his big brother is searching for an alchemist. The manager, whose aura alone makes it obvious he's a pro, pats Bong-su on the head and cheerfully invites both of them inside. Meanwhile, somewhere nearby, another alchemist is bored out of his mind because his boss is useless and business has been dead for weeks. His grumbling comes to an abrupt stop when the manager walks in with Cheon and orders the assistant manager to get them drinks. But our boy skips all the small talk and goes straight to the point. He says the man should be able to brew purified mana water from mandragora roots since he's an A-rank alchemist. The manager is stunned that Cheon knows his rank and admits with clear regret that he doesn't have such high-grade materials in stock. That is when our boy pulls out a mandra root radiating so much demonic energy that it feels alive. Both alchemists are floored by its freshness like it was plucked minutes ago. As for payment, Kyan casually drops the finest materials from the coastal region, making their jaws hit the floor. After the pair is finished fanboying over the rare goods, he asks if it's enough. The manager laughs, saying it's way more than enough, and goes to get them appraised. Looking around the room, Chan spots another mandrora root floating lifeless in a jar of water. The manager claims it is long dead, or so he thought. Our boy pours a tiny stream of his energy inside, and the shriveled root suddenly twitches. The manager's eyes nearly pop out of their sockets. In frustration, the manager insists he poured tons of mana into that mandriga before, but it never reacted like that. Just then, the door slams open and his former boss barges in like he owns the place. Without wasting a second, the man starts mocking the shabby empty office. The man taunts that he heard about some high-quality items showing up here. Grinding his teeth, manager Kim instantly realizes that his spineless assistant must have sold him out. The intruder, Gi Jong Ly, introduces himself as the Gold City branch head and tells Chayan that he'll be handsomely rewarded for bringing such valuable materials. His arrogant grin and grating laugh make Chayan want to shoot him in the face. Putting that aside, he notices the man's surname and asks if he's related to the Nobel Prize winner, Bhakti, and hearing that, Gong bursts out laughing again and proudly declares himself the great man's grandson. But for him, that only confirms his suspicion that corruption runs deep in their family's bloodline. His mind flashes back to the time Bakdok whipped test subjects half to death, treating them like they were less than human. The rage bubbling inside him finally erupts. A massive surge of aura explodes from his body, shaking the floor and forcing Gigi Zhang to his knees. He glares down at him and spits, asking if it's some family tradition to crush people under their power and steal whatever they want. Trembling in denial, Gigi Zhang demands to know what kind of nonsense he's talking about. With eyes blazing and killing intent flooding the room, Chan warns him to choose his next words very carefully. In a cold tone, he asks if the TDA lab is still under operation. Hearing the name, Gong frowns and insists he has never even heard of such a place. Chayan narrows his eyes and repeats the question, asking if he truly knows nothing about his grandfather's Chimera experimentation facility, but Gue Zhang scoffs and calls it all slander, claiming his grandfather conducted research meant to benefit humanity for generations. He proudly adds that the man even donated his entire fortune to the victims of the gate incident, which is why he received a Nobel Prize. That earns a dark grin from Chayan. He mumbles that maybe the old psycho really did have a change of heart before he died. Still, he says it is a pity that the bastard went out so early for a hunter. Then he wonders out loud if the side effects of falling out the window over the gate might have helped with that. Guzhang's eyes widen in horror because that incident was supposed to be completely unknown to the public. Of course, Kyan knows he was the one who pushed the old man off in the first place. The decrepit fossil threatened to throw the Chimera children into a portal, so he decided to let Bakdok experience it firsthand. With that said, he orders Gi Zhang to investigate whatever remains of his grandfather's lab and to have a report ready by the time he returns next. He still cannot believe the irony of running into Bakdok's grandson after all these years. He had only been 9 when the mentally deranged scientist had him kidnapped. After being transformed into a mindless weapon, all he could think about was completing orders, and time slipped away before he even realized it. For all he knows, the lab might be operating under a completely new name. Now, just then, Manager Kim returns carrying 2 bottles filled with shimmering green purified mana water. Chayan is genuinely impressed by how quickly the A-rank professional worked. With his humble and honest attitude, the manager carefully calculates all the material costs. As a reward, our hero offers him a private contract where he will keep supplying rare ingredients and the alchemist will handle all the brewing. His generous offer completely blows the chubby uncle away. The man bursts into tears of joy when he realizes he can finally buy back his building and pay off all the loans hanging over his head. When Chayan asks why he is suddenly crying, the manager opens up about his rough past in the slums. His parents had taken a huge loan so he could study even though they could barely afford food. He worked endlessly to repay it, but no matter what job he took, it was never enough. Our boy assures him that from now on, he will always have work waiting for him, then decides to head back, hoping nothing bad happened while he was gone. But life rarely goes the way we want it to. Back in the other world, Yu's sister finally loses control. Wei refuses to fight back, trying to reason with her and beg her to return to her senses. Gripping his face, she hurls him across the room like a bowling ball. For a moment, he lies motionless, thinking this might be the end for him. But as soon as he sees Kim and Gu over him, he remembers the promise he made to protect them. Strength floods back into his body, and he jumps into action once again. He flies head-on at his sister, determined to end her suffering and wishing her happiness in her next life. Before the siblings connect, though, my guy crash lands his flying jellyfish right between them, breaking up the fight in dramatic fashion. Birdman is stunned for a moment, but that quickly turns into rage when he realizes his best friend just ran over his little sister with his ride. Putting that aside for now, he demands to know if he had any luck with the potion. With a confident grin, our hero holds up the 2 glowing green vials, just as promised. Later that night, the group settles down after a hearty dinner. Yu's sister, Jia, slowly wakes up beside Kim and wonders if she is dreaming or if this is the afterlife. Turning her head, she spots her brother and a stranger sitting by the campfire. When Kyan glances her way, she panics, unsure who he is or why she is surrounded by unfamiliar faces. Birdhead turns around with a warm smile and tells her to check her mana hole, and surely enough, it is fully repaired and stronger than ever before. She also realizes that her face is human again. When Jia turns to her brother to ask who the strangers are, Yu teasingly asks if she really cannot tell when the boy she wanted to see for so long is standing right in front of her. When the truth finally hits her, she completely breaks down, asking if he really is number 17. Yu confirms it, saying that he saved their lives yet again. Meanwhile, our boy pays no mind to their emotional moment and asks if they are out of red moss again. Ignoring his usual cold personality, Jia slowly removes her mask for the first time in years and sincerely thanks him from the bottom of her heart. Just then, Kim becomes utterly captivated by the golden deep-sea fairies glowing across the surface of the water. Jia explains that if you follow them home after sunrise, you can find yellow quartz near their nests. That sudden reminder makes our cold and calculating hero realize he completely forgot that finding that mineral was the main reason he came here in the first place. Back in the human world, the director's subordinates report that several hunters failed to recover the machine creature. What they do know is that it is currently hiding somewhere within the coastal region. The director is puzzled by that. So his men explain that all the A-rank hunters who went there returned without any memories of the place. However, their trackers still managed to detect the target. Then the director's phone vibrates and on the other end is a furious gong. Without wasting a second, he demands to know if the director has ever heard of a TDA lab. The director outright refuses to hear anything about a lab like that. So G.I. Jong starts breaking down every rotten detail he knows, but director Mayung cuts him off fast. He claims Professor Bakshio taught him to always follow honest research and serve humanity. He swears on the old man's name that he has not forgotten that lesson. Then says he is busy and ends the call. Right after hanging up, the guy starts panicking. He cannot figure out how the grandson of that useless professor even knows about the lab when every single record was erased. Before he can think too much, a scientist barges into the office with a briefcase shaking with excitement. He reports that the experiment to fuse Mandrora with mercury was a massive success. They finally created the liquid metal Mandriga he wanted. The moment the director sees it, the creep gets tingles down his spine. He is thrilled because Mandrora forms strong bonds by nature and liquid metal has the same property. Combining both traits into a chimera means he finally has a creature that can track down his most prized mechanical creation, Kim. So he orders his subordinate to raise the bounty for A-rank hunters and swears to make sure his best creation is found no matter what. Meanwhile, Yu is chilling on the beach near Cheon's place. Last night, our boy invited Yu and his sister to stay with him for a while. He even promises he has a professional cook waiting, but Yu is more shocked that he actually lives in the demon realm now. Our boy assures him it is a pretty relaxed place once you get used to the atmosphere. Yu then asks why he chose to stay there when he could always return to Earth. Bro just looks at him and asks if he seriously wants to go back to that cursed world. Birdhead admits life on Earth was never good for him or his sister, but he still wants to see if things have changed. Hearing that, our boy tells him it might be possible because he has an idea that could finally cure their curse. He explains that there is a seriously talented alchemist he met back on Earth. Manager Kim might just be able to find a cure if they give him some time to study their curse. After a moment of silence, Yu suddenly starts crying. He asks Chaeyeon why he is always so kind to him and his sister when they have never done anything for him. Our boy tells him he helps them because he thinks it might help him find an answer of his own. He spent years wondering if there is anything more important in life than just trying to survive. Back to Yu on the beach. Jia flies out of the ocean holding 2 giant ropes in her hands. She throws one toward her brother and tells him to pull with everything he has. He pulls with all his strength, but even then he struggles under the crazy weight. Turns out he is dragging a huge net stuffed with an absurd amount of quartz crystals. He cannot believe our boy mined all of that in a single day. Meanwhile, Chaeyeon feels refreshed since he has not taken a proper swim in a long time. On the other hand, Kim is itching to dive again because the seafarer's home at the bottom was unbelievably beautiful. Putting that aside, Yu asks how they are even going to carry all that quartz back to the forest. While our boy tries to come up with a plan, a lone parrot vulture suddenly flies over his head. He finds that strange because those birds normally fly in big flocks. Kim grins because its feathers look gorgeous, but Jia quickly tells her she will not be smiling if she sees one up close. Vulture parrots are monstrous 4-meter beasts with awful tempers, and hunters usually run for their lives the moment they spot one. However, the only thing our boy sees is a convenient Amazon delivery truck cruising in the sky. Back at his place, Nam is training hard and he feels like his magic capacity is growing pretty well. At this rate, he might actually reach a rank sooner than he imagined. Right as he thinks that, he sees a half-dead-looking mandra collapse behind him. He assumes the angry little guy is upset at him, but it is actually because it is being bullied by a group of 3 men in black outfits. Suddenly, one of them recognizes Nam from his glowing bright noggin and wonders if he is now a homeless man living in the mountains. Nam quickly covers his head out of embarrassment. He is shocked that the same troublemakers who bullied him during the exam somehow managed to find him here. Before he can react though, the Mandrora gang steps in front of him like a knight in shining fiber. The hunters lose their minds when they see it because these creatures cost more than their weight in gold. The first guy walks up to them and tries to treat them like he is taming some friendly pet. That makes Nam furious and he realizes he has to do something since the trio is extremely important to his master. But it turns out he does not need to lift a finger because the chubby Mandrora simply lifts its tiny leg. Suddenly all 3 idiots are sent flying so hard that they wonder if there was an earthquake in confusion. Meanwhile, our boy is soaring through the sky on his newly tamed vulture parrot, but he wonders if the bird is flying slowly because of the weight or because he got too rough with the taming. Back with Nam, he nearly loses his mind when he spots the ones who caused the explosion. He thinks that Jia and her brother are apocalypse-class monsters living near the coastal area. When he remembers that the others also went there, he gets seriously worried since none of them returned. He even considers forming a temporary alliance with the guys in black. But before that happens, Jia gets right in his face and casually asks if he is Cheon's famous chef. Bro freaks out hard that a monster can actually speak. But the moment he hears the word chef, he quickly asks her if she knows his master. Yu proudly claims they are basically best buds. Putting that aside, when Yu asks if the shady trio are guests, Nam gets a naughty little idea. He snitches to what he thinks are apocalypse-class beings that the trio are dastardly thieves stealing his master's property. It is at this exact moment that they realize they messed up. An hour goes by and our boy finally returns to his humble abode with a big sack full of shiny quartz. He notices the vulture parrot is almost half dead from hauling so much weight for miles. So, he tells the poor fella to rest after a job well done. The fluffball, who is literally a bird, rolls off the vulture's back, too, because somehow it got motion sickness from flying too high. Seeing the shady trio of Arankers tied to a tree like hostages, our boy wonders what happened while he was gone. Yu tells him the story about the Mandra thieves, but he suspects there is something deeper happening. Meanwhile, Jia asks Kim to give her a review of her beautiful, humble abode. While the girls go sightseeing, Yu explains that these guys are from the Research Institute. They belong to the same organization hunting down Kim. Our boy recognizes it as the same lab Nam stole the tracker from. He realizes that more hunters will keep coming because Kim has some kind of tracking device that is active even inside the demon realm. Still, he is confused about how they discovered his home when he and Kim were all the way out at the coast. After that, Yu holds out a metallic mandra in his hand and explains it is probably because of this tiny shiny troublemaker. Our boy can hardly believe that someone actually managed to fuse fluid metal with a living mandra just to track Kim down. Yu adds that they only came down here because their own mandroras pointed the way and their next destination would have been the coastal area. Hearing that, Kyan realizes he seriously needs to build some kind of security system before things get worse. Just then, the Mandrora trio comes running toward him. They demand he hand over their brother, even if he is basically an enemy. As he gives them the shriveled-up little guy, they immediately yell at him to take out the other one as well. He is shocked that they can somehow sense that he has a wrinkly old Mandrora hidden in his pocket. He remembers that manager Kim gave it to him because he believed Cheon could take good care of it. The old man literally shed real tears over losing that wrinkly vegetable. Anyways, the Mandroras quickly dig up tiny holes for their beaten-up brethren. The moment the injured pair settles inside, the two cheer up like nothing happened, and he feels relieved they are not fighting over territory this time. With that said, right as he starts wondering where Nam might be, Jia suddenly calls out to him from above. She has a bald dude desperately trying to reunite with his master in one hand and a hyped-up Kim flailing in the other. Naturally, our boy holds Nam far away when the guy tries to hug him with tears running down his face. When he asks Jia why Nam looks so homeless, she explains he was getting eaten alive by piranhas in the lake like an idiot. The guy swears that he only did that to gather fine ingredients to prepare something special for his master's guests. Nam asks everyone to wait for a short while so he can cook up something special. But when he notices a vulture parrot casually chilling next to him, he gets another dramatic heat attack on the spot. Our hero tells him to save the performance for later and focus on getting the food ready already. Somewhere nearby, Kim finds the shiny Mandrora quietly minding its own business. She is instantly attracted to the shiny object like a curious baby, so she reaches out to touch it. The moment they make contact, something strange happens. Later, the bird siblings are completely blown away by Nam's specialty dish, a steaming plate of kimchi curry rice. The guy spent hours working on the fine details to craft a masterpiece that even Chef Ramsay can't. Our gang digs into the delicious food, but Kyan notices that Kim is barely eating anything at all. When he asks her what happened, she replies that she is not feeling well. Instead, she leaves because she wants to sleep for a bit, but his sharp mind instantly catches on that she must be feeling terrible about the liquid metal Mandrora. At sunset, the Mandrora resting in the dirt suddenly senses something strange. Right after our boy suggests that they start building his fence to burn a few calories, he also detects the same thing. Out of nowhere, a giant gate tears open behind his house. He sees Kim standing right in front of it. She is sure that if she stays with him any longer, she will only bring more danger to him. That is why she decides to go back to where she belongs. With the metallic Mandrora wrapped in her arms, she says one final goodbye and runs into the portal without looking back. However, he grabs her at the last second and tells her that his home is where she truly belongs. Hearing that, Kim bawls her eyes out again, and Cheon learns the hard way that he should never let kids out of his sight. A few minutes later, the little munchkin is already slurping down hot ramen like nothing dramatic happened at all. She is really happy with the food, but Jia makes it clear that Big Sister will not let her off easy next time she even thinks about running away. Flirts the ramen so quickly that her tongue starts burning like crazy. So, Nam gives her a medicine his mom always used, which is so popular that Yu remembers they also used it back at the lab. After she chugs a few of the bottles down, she sits quietly with Cheon at the table. She apologizes for worrying him so much like that, but he assures her she does not have anything to say sorry for because the ones who deserve the blame are her creators, not her. With that in mind, he gets serious and asks her to tell him about her friends from the coconut tribe. After all, he does not want to hurt anyone who was actually kind to her when he raids the research institute. Kim tells him everything that she knows, and he does not even bother asking about the exact location because Nam already knows it well enough. In the meantime, the bald guy gets ready to take revenge on the A-rank pieces of trash. But when he removes the gag, the A ranker instantly tries to bribe him if he lets them escape. Pretty Boy goes on about how he is rolling in cash and can pay him a huge amount, even promising to shut up about everything that happened. However, Nam humbles the arrogant by showing the black card only the top 1% can own. The hairless clown laughs because he never expected his sweet revenge would walk right to him. The A ranker tries to pretend he was just messing around, but Nam shows no mercy. He pulls out 3 shiny balls made from raw oblivion herbs. He never tested himself either how painful the allergic reaction is, but Nam believes it just might be the cure to their trash personalities, and he stuffs the balls right in their faces. The next morning, Kim is happily playing around with the fluff ball. Yu asks him if he is really going to raid the lab. Our boy agrees and asks him to take care of Kim while he heads out with Nam and Master Gu. Right then, the bald guy shows up with a giant backpack and a huge smile on his face. The reason he is excited, of course, is because he will finally meet a top-tier alchemist. That person might just have the cure to his lifelong disease. Seeing that, Jia points out they are way too obvious and should at least cover their faces. Nam is not interested at first, but his opinion changes instantly when he sees the absolute queen hiding under the mask. Unfortunately for him, she gives her mask to our boy, even though it does not even fit him all that well. That is the exact moment when he realizes he fell in love at first sight. Like an absolute Chad, he tells her that he is not the type to mess around and he means something when he says it. With zero hesitation, he asks her what kind of guy is her type. Yu and Cheyenne grab some popcorn because the plot is getting spicy. Jia does not like to mess around either, so she thinks hard and deep for a long second. After a dramatic suspense, she says that he would probably have to be very flamboyant, good at dancing, and have lots of thick feathers. That hits Nam's insecurities so hard that he begs our boy to take him to the alchemist as soon as possible. Back on Earth, all of the civilians are seriously concerned when they see such a large return portal appear. A vulture parrot coming out all of a sudden makes the civilians panic so hard that they rush to report the case immediately. When Nam points out that everyone is scared, our boy simply says he does not need to walk when he can fly. The guy then asks him where they are even going, but he calmly reminds Nam that he is the one who will be guiding them. Flying through the big blue sky on a big blue fly, he creatively names his parrot Blue. At the Research Institute, the scientists report that all the hunters came back with strange amnesia. The director is absolutely pissed when they add that they lost the metal Mandra who was his only shot at tracking Kim down. Without his latest, he cannot secure funding from his investors unless he shows. Just then, one of the scientists shows him a small note attached to a hunter's gear. When the director reads the cyan message, he starts yelling at his terrified employees. At that moment, the window behind him shatters and our boy crash lands straight into the office. He learns the hard way that even a single missing tail feather really makes it difficult to control his ride. The scene shifts to the past when Nam told him about the Institute's location, but he was still worried because the lab is the most powerful one in the entire nation. Even the current headlines are discussing how the Institute created a living mechanical creature. Nam is terrified that they are committing a major crime against such a huge organization. However, his sensei's calm demeanor gives him a bit of confidence. That is until he notices one of the tail feathers is missing. Our boy explains it has been that way since the moment he found Blue. Apparently, that missing feather is the reason why Blue was being attacked and eventually forced out of his community. Ever since he saved him from all the other vultures, Blue has been strangely happy. After flying for some time, they finally spot the Research Institute deep in the mountains. He orders Blue to go full speed without turning. The parrot kicks into gear and flies straight at the lab like a fearless fighter jet. Now, in the meeting room, the scientists wonder if Elon started World War II or something. Once the dust settles, one of them gets a close-up view of Blue and it scares the hell out of him. Then all of them get wrapped in threads. When Nam asks why they did not enter from the front door, he replies that he came directly to the top floor because this is where the director stays. The scientists panic and question who he is. So he states he is the guardian of Kim Nari. At that moment, our boy detects a strange dark mana flowing through the air and he realizes there is someone incredibly dangerous here. The scene shifts to the Hunter Association Tower where President Lee warns his bratty grandson to lock in already. The kid argues he is doing pretty good compared to his grandpa who never got above C rank his whole life. He is already at the same rank in his 20s. The useless grandson asks his grandpa to just give him more pocket money already. His old man regrets spoiling him because the boy refuses to inherit his position even when he is over 80. Back in his childhood, he dreamed of saving others like the heroic hunters on TV. But now all those heroes refuse to do any mission that even sounds dangerous. They only work when it gives them good money. Because of that, the Chimera were made so they would not have to endanger their own lives. But now those Chimera-producing labs are charging outrageous amounts. So the regions that cannot afford to pay them are completely vulnerable. The president believes that it is the association's job to make sure people's lives don't depend on if they can pay or not. That is why the president's seat is the most important position. But all the hunters who are trying to succeed him are greedy scumbags. If the association falls under the wrong person's control, they could create a hunter mafia never seen before. The old man's final wish is for his talented grandson to take over. He never had the power to change anything, being a weak C rank his whole life. Hearing that, his grandson suddenly snaps. But before he can say anything, a man urgently reports that there is a vulture parrot flying around in the slums. When the president asks who is taking care of it, the man says that no hunter is taking the job. That really grinds his gears because they all know a job in the slums will not pay anything. The president orders him to inform all the Chimera labs and declares he will do it with his own hands. Surprisingly, his grandson Bei says he wants to come along as well. Back at the lab, Kyan notices the ominous mana is coming from a white-haired scientist. He shows no mercy, instantly slicing up the danger with his threads. However, the scientist's body suddenly turns into liquid metal. Nam stares in horror at the Chimera, pretending to be a human. Even the man's underlings are shocked because they never realized he was actually a Chimera. Director Mayon's body morphs into a creepy monster. He becomes furious at our boy turning his precious lab into a complete mess. While the director swipes his metallic claws at him, he notices the liquid metal looks almost just like Kim's. However, there is no mechanical part to it, which means he tested everything on his own body. At that moment, Master Gu tells him that he can now read Director Mayung's mind. Chan suddenly sees sharp flashes of the twisted man's memories. In the deepest, darkest corners of his labs, the director injected kids with all kinds of unstable things. He did it all to go beyond anything a human has ever reached, even surpassing his sociopathic master, Oxioan. After he learns that the bastard killed countless children for his own gain, our hero becomes furious and crushes his face without hesitation. The mangled director simply replies that the kids in the slums are worth even less than sewer rats. Being part of his experiments should be an honor for them. Not realizing Kyan can hear every thought with Goose's mind reading, the mad scientist thinks he can liquefy and easily escape. But our boy makes sure he realizes his crimes in the Chamber of Pain. A powerful wave of blue mana rolls up the slab of liquid metal and packs him neatly into something like a pokeball. After that, he turns to the other scientists asking if they would like to speak up or get sealed in his balls as well. Later, our fluffy phoenix tells him Director Mayung's full story. The man was a loyal student of Bhakti until he got too greedy. He suddenly left the original lab with all the data on biological experiments so he could become a chimera that never gets old. What concerns Chayan though is that Mon's memories had absolutely nothing on the TDA lab. Still, he is glad that he at least got rid of the device that Mayung's institute was using to track him. He already told Nam and Blue to take proper care of the other scientists. So now the only thing left to deal with is the dirty director's worst experiments. He blasts through the thick steel gates with a kick. Inside he finds countless cells filled with dead chimas. Gu cannot believe the psychopath actually preserved the children's bodies for research use. Looking at the children reminds Chayan of the time when the TDA lab tortured him. In the end, they always made sure he stayed alive because he was their golden cash cow. He decides the children deserve to finally rest in peace. Suddenly, a little fox-like creature comes out because it smells something familiar. He instantly recognizes she is one of Kim's friends, so he gently asks the little thing if it knows anything about mechanical creatures. The fox gets excited when she realizes they know about Kim and quickly asks if she is alright. When he tells her that she is finally enjoying life in the demon realm with him, her eyes fill up with warm tears. She says she has been waiting for Kim to return this whole time and she is relieved that he is still alive. Right then, two more of Kim's hidden friends shuffle out from behind the door. They are also followed by 4 squirrels he never even heard about. When he asks if there are any others left, Foxy explains that everyone else was either sold off or quietly eliminated. After hearing that, he opens a portal to the demon realm, giving the surviving chimeras a place where they can live freely and safely. Soon after that, President Lee and his grandson arrive at the research institute. They freeze up when they realize the chimera's actual target was the laboratory instead of the nearby slums. As smoke rises from the wreckage, Beck spots the vulture parrot circling above. Then he notices something even stranger because a masked guy is mounted on its back like he's playing modded Minecraft. Meanwhile, our boy calmly asks Nam if he handled all the researchers. His loyal puppy confirms that he moved every last one of them to a secured location. Nam then asks why they did not simply wipe the witnesses' memories, but he says he left that untouched on purpose. After that, he asks who the 2 people watching from below are, and Nam explains that they are the association's president, Lee, and his grandson. He thinks they probably rushed over because of the wave of urgent reports. Cheon remembers the president's familiar name, so he decides to mess with him. Out of nowhere, he tosses down a pokeball for the old man to catch. When the president recognizes it, he is shocked since it's been a long time since he saw such a powerful mana seal. These seals cannot be broken unless the breaker has more magic power than the creator. As he wonders what kind of monster could seal a powerhouse like Director Mayung, his subordinates confirm that no one died in the chaos. However, they keep receiving bizarre reports. Apparently, the director's own crew claims he was an imposter, a chimera pretending to be human. They continue explaining that the intruder even saved all the researchers after burning down the chimera lab. Listening to this, the director silently wonders if the intruder is the same boy he assumed died long ago. High in the clouds, our hero decides that they will return straight to the demon realm without any more delays. Even though Nam wants to get his smooth head checked out properly, it is tough to stay on Earth with the association tracking them down. Later that night, Manager Kim is jolted awake by a loud noise outside his door. He steps out, wondering who could be visiting at that hour. There, he finds a druggie on the ground with a black mask half covering his face. The horror scene almost scares the soul out of the poor man, but Cheon's familiar voice calms him down. The frightened man asks why he is suddenly visiting in the middle of the night. With a warm and reassuring smile, our boy says it's time for him to see the demon realm. Back at his humble abode, Kim and the bird siblings start working on a plan to build a fence using all the quartz and light crystals lying around. The little kid is blown away when you makes a lamp by slapping a hollow quartz on top of a fat light crystal. A few moments later, a portal opens behind them, and Kim immediately thinks Cheon has returned. Instead, all the chimeras from the research institute tumble out of the portal and pile up on top of each other like laundry. The bird siblings look confused and wonder why our boy would send over such weak chamas, but Kim quickly runs away and shyly hides behind the house. Meanwhile, Sasa stands proudly in front of the newcomers, looking like he is trying to assert dominance. However, the tiny tree cam ignores the loud idiot and waddles over to the vegetable garden with rich soil. Then a chaotic fight breaks out when the garden's original owners catch the intruder stepping on their territory. Soon after, our boy also returns to the demon realm with Nam and Manager Kim. The manager is instantly impressed by the complex structures Cheon managed to build inside the supposedly primitive realm. The fat man starts nerding over the incredible architecture our boy designed with almost no resources. But Cheon is more focused on Kim, who is hiding behind a tree instead of catching up with her old friends. He runs off telling Nam and the manager not to move while he handles the situation. After that, he returns Jia's mask to her and asks why fiber warfare is happening inside his vegetable garden. She explains that the tiny tree sapling wants some of the fertile soil and the Mandroras started a turf war to defend their land. When neither side budges an inch, the ant rushes in to help settle the fight. The sapling uses its vine to launch its buddy straight at the chubby Mandrora. Unfortunately, things do not go even close to the way they planned. The chubby Mandrora smoothly sidesteps at the last second. So, the ant flies past and bonks its head straight into the metal mandragora instead. Seeing that disaster unfold, the tiny sapling quietly picks up its poor buddy and returns to its group in crushing defeat. Our hero quickly notices that the fox is missing. It turns out she saw Kim slipping away earlier and followed after her. Sitting on the other side of the tree, she tells Kim that she will not move an inch until her apology is accepted. You see, Kim completely gave up on fighting in any matches when she was at the research lab. The curse that made orders absolute didn't work on her. So, the scientists couldn't make her fight no matter what they did. Every single time she was sent for a ranking match, she always lost after getting beat up on purpose. Seeing that, the scientists theorized she must have been born with a gentle personality. Even though she is a combat chimera, she refuses to fight back. However, Director Mong did not worry at all. If it was just a personality issue, then he could fix that with ease. The evil bastard placed a few of the weakest ones into her room so they could become her closest friends. Then he used the curse to force those same friends to fight her. He believed there is nothing more painful than being betrayed by the very friends you trust the most. After breaking her down to pieces, he tried to brainwash her, saying they loyal friends do not exist. He told her she would die unless she broke them before they had the chance to break her. At that moment, something deep inside her snapped. She suddenly took off with tears in her eyes. She chose to run away rather than hurting her friends. Every scientist in the lab tried to stop her, but no one could stop her from escaping straight through the portal. Shifting back to the present, Kim is now in her original form. Foxy is shocked to see her crying. She asks why Kim is crying when she is the one who should have been upset. Kim hugs her tightly and says she missed her and the others for a very long time. Meanwhile, the three grown-ups have been quietly watching, stalking them from behind a tree this whole time. Chan is relieved they are back on good terms again. When he returns to the house, though, he finds the two smooth brains took the order way too seriously. After that, he introduces the manager as his personal A-rank alchemist. The old man makes a solid introduction, but then he blurts out the first thing that pops into his mind. Unk politely asks the bird siblings if he can have some of their feathers for research purposes, of course. The scene then shifts to Bong Su, who is meeting up with the cute clothes shop girl. He swears to her that the bluebird monster hoax was real and how the association came running to take care of it. Right as he tells her the weather is getting pretty cold, she serves him delicious steamed sweet potatoes. He instantly cheers up when he takes a bite of the warm goodness. She notices that he looks a little paler than usual. Sure enough, he admits that he feels a little sick and his body is in pain after every workout. When he mentions that even painkillers do not work, she realizes that it suits the signs of awakening sickness. She believes he is cold because of the fever and the body pain is a classic sign. Plus, he is in his late teens, which is when awakenings usually begin. Hearing that, the kid instantly refuses because there is no way a bumpkin like him can become a hunter. She fires back that background does not matter for hunters and points out his growth has been quite fast lately. She forcibly hands him some money and orders him to use it for a bus to the association in the nearby city. There he should take the test to confirm his potential. The Sundara shyly says there is no telling that he might become a legendary hunter someday. Bongu was really happy to hear her say that, so he thanks the nice lady. The lady who is seriously sensitive about her age rages because she is still a young girl. But he calls her lady again and promises to pay her big favor back someday. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, the new chimeras help the bird siblings build the quartz crystal fence. While Yu is not really tired by the labor because he is a chimera, Nam refuses to stop helping even though he is half asleep. Soon, they all gather with Chayan to finish the job while manager Kim figures out a way to fix Blue's tail feathers. When Nam says he wanted to get his head checked first, our boy unintentionally threatens him to go home if he cannot wait, which makes the bald boy go quiet real fast. Then he sternly reminds the Chimera gang that no one gets to live for free unless they contribute something. Later, Kim accompanies him on his way to finish a part of the fence. After he tells her what he plans on doing, he asks her back if she is on good terms with her friends. Now, the girl instantly freezes up before shyly asking if he really went to the coconut tribe to save her friends. He realizes that she is on to the fact that he figured out who she really is. Then she shyly starts to reveal that she did not actually come from the coconut tribe. But Kyan tells her no worries because no one will ever chase after her in the future because he handled everything. Suddenly, he surprises her by saying they could make this home the coconut tribe. They still need a proper name for the growing family, and it has to be a cute one just like her personality. In the dark, starry night lit up by the glowing quartz fence. She thanks him with tears in her eyes for everything he has done. After that, she walks back with blazing confidence. You and the others watch closely, surprised that the talk went surprisingly smooth. Nam lets him know that the fence is finally complete and looking amazing. Kim is thrilled that the house is sparkling and cute. Foxy missed her a lot, so she surprises her with a cuddly hug and started licking her like an ice cream. Blue also takes inspiration and comes crashing straight at Cheyenne to give him a big hug. It turns out the feathers grew back completely. The manager finally manages to catch up and says it really did not take too long for the treatment to work. Apparently, the red moss our boy gave him has wildly powerful healing abilities. Seeing the majestic feathers on Blue's tail, Nam's hope for the day he finally grows hair skyrockets instantly. Not wanting to miss a better chance, he smoothly sneaks up to the manager. When he asks the man if he might have some experience with hair loss, the man is genuinely surprised he knew about that. The man tells Bald Boy he has actually been working on a hair growth serum for the last 10 years straight. Apparently, that is a disease all alchemists are trying desperately to cure. So, the manager promises he will contact Nam first since he seriously needs it right now. Nam's shiny, bald head instantly hits the ground. He bows deeply to the man whose hands truly hold his chances of getting a girl. The manager then tells the bird siblings he discovered something new from their own feathers, too. He tries to carefully explain that magic circles are very hard to crack and the curse on them is so complex he has never seen anything like it before. However, he believes that a very large number of mandra fruit might help him completely crack the case. Hearing that, our boy asks him if that is the red fruit that grows naturally on mandroras. He also explains that they are extremely tough to get because you can only pick them fresh if the mandagra lets you pick them. Plus, they should make little huts because the little creatures like to hide in dark holes to stay safe from predators. Manager Kim is amazed by his absolutely priceless knowledge about the species. Chan admits he has a bit of history with the little guys, something he never really talked about before. He remembers the time when he was sent on a mission. They wanted to test if he could survive 10 whole days in the demon realm all by himself. But the mission felt more like a casual trip to a snowy mountain to someone like him. He even decided he should hike all the way to the top just for fun and a little challenge. On his way, however, he suddenly heard a rustling sound in the bushes nearby. When he looked inside, he saw an injured little man drag struggling to